In the heart of the English countryside, where the fields stretched wide under a brooding sky, Jack Lovelock laced up his worn-out running shoes with an urgency that mirrored the tension of the world around him. The soft scent of damp earth filled the air, a reminder of the recent rain, as he stepped out of his modest cottage. It was a chilly morning, the first hints of winter creeping in, wrapping the landscape in a crisp embrace. Jack had always felt a profound connection to the land, a bond forged through years of training and racing, but now, with the dark cloud of war looming, every step he took echoed a deeper significance. War had transformed everything. The once thriving towns were now filled with the sound of sirens and the distant rumble of military vehicles. Men of all ages left their homes to fight for freedom, patriotism swelling in their chests as they donned uniforms that hung heavily from their shoulders. In contrast, Jack, a celebrated athlete known for his speed and agility, felt an internal conflict. His instinct told him to serve, to join his fellow countrymen, yet the call of the track pulsed through his veins. The races he had won now seemed like distant memories, overshadowed by the gravity of the present. He had made a name for himself in the world of athletics, his feet dancing over the ground like the wind itself. Jack was the reigning Olympic champion, a title he had earned through sweat and determination. But now, his passion had to take a back seat to duty. Yet, there was a glimmer of hope in his heart. He had just been selected to represent his country once more, not on the track, but in a race against time itself. As he jogged along the familiar paths of his youth, memories flooded his mind. He remembered the cheers of the crowd, the thrill of victory, and the taste of triumph. Yet today, each stride felt heavy with the weight of what was at stake. The war had stolen so much from him, friends and comrades lost to the chaos of battle. The thought of them pushed him forward, fueling his resolve. Jack was not just racing against time, he was racing for the future, a beacon of hope amid the darkness. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow on his face. Jack increased his pace, allowing himself to get lost in the rhythm of his feet against the ground. He was driven by a singular purpose, to inspire those at home, to remind them that even in the bleakest of times, human spirit and resilience could endure. As he ran, he envisioned the message he would deliver to the nation, a call to arms not just for soldiers, but for everyone. The strength of a country was not solely in its military might, but in the hearts of its people. However, doubt crept in as it often does. What if he failed? What if he stumbled before the finish line, not just in the race, but in life? With each passing mile, these thoughts battled against his determination. He recalled the faces of his friends, the laughter of his teammates, and the dreams they shared before the war changed everything. The laughter had faded, and the dreams now lay in jeopardy. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a commotion nearby. A group of soldiers was gathered, their voices rising in a heated debate. Jack slowed his pace, curiosity piqued. He approached, his athlete's instincts taking over as he scanned their faces, searching for the source of their agitation. As he drew closer, he could hear snippets of their conversation, news from the front, whispers of battles lost and won. The weight of their words settled heavily in Jack's chest, grounding him in the reality he had tried to escape, if only for a moment. Another convoy ambushed, one soldier exclaimed, his brow furrowed with worry. "We're losing men out there." Jack felt a swell of empathy. He understood what it meant to face fear head-on, to push through when every instinct screamed to retreat. But these men were not just running a race, they were fighting for their lives. In that moment, Jack's heart ignited with purpose. His race now transcended individual glory, it had become a testament to resilience, a symbol of hope for those who felt lost. With a firm resolve, he approached the soldiers. "Every step counts," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "We may not be on the front lines, but we can still fight for our country, for each other. Let's not forget that strength can come from unity, from standing together." The men turned to him, surprise mingling with admiration. Jack wasn't just a runner, he was a source of strength, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could shine brightly. As he spoke, he could see their spirits lift, their shoulders straightening, the weight of doubt dissipating like mist in the morning sun. It was a small gesture, but in that moment, Jack knew he had made a difference, however fleeting. With newfound energy, he resumed his run, the path stretching endlessly before him. The fields seemed to ripple under his feet, a sea of green and gold, reflecting the resilience embedded in the land and its people. He ran for them, for the soldiers who had left everything behind, for the families waiting anxiously for news, and for a future that remained uncertain. As he pushed forward, Jack's heartbeat synchronized with his thoughts, each breath a reminder of the life he was fighting for. He was racing against time, yes, but he was also racing for hope. The finish line was not just a mark on the ground, it was a promise of tomorrow, a vision of a world where peace reigned again. Through the shadows of war, Jack Lovelock raced on, his spirit unyielding and his heart full. He was determined to cross that finish line, not just for himself, but for every person who had ever dared to dream of a brighter future. And as the world around him fought to reclaim its light, Jack's journey had only just begun, a testament to the indomitable will of humanity. If you find yourself captivated by this tale of courage and resilience, consider joining us on this journey. Subscribe to our channel and follow Jack's path as he races against time, facing challenges that test the very fabric of hope. Together, let's explore the stories of those who dared to dream in the midst of despair. Jack Lovelock pushed himself forward with a steady rhythm, his heart pounding not only from the exertion but from the emotional weight of the world around him. The roads he ran were etched into his memory, pathways that had once brought him joy and fulfillment. Now, they felt like somber reminders of a simpler time, a time before the inevitable shadow of war had crept into every corner of life. With each breath, he could almost hear the echoes of laughter from days spent training with friends, the thrill of competition that had once defined him. Now, that thrill was replaced by the urgency of the moment, a grim reminder that life was fragile and fleeting. As the morning light broke through the dense gray clouds, Jack felt a flicker of determination surge within him. He was not just running for himself anymore, he was running for his country, for those who fought on the front lines, for the families torn apart by the ravages of war. His spirit had not been crushed, rather, it was ignited, fueled by a desire to contribute, to make a difference in whatever way he could. He thought of the young men he had grown up with, many of whom had already left for battle, their faces now memories painted with both youth and bravery. His destination was a makeshift field set up on the outskirts of town, where the local athletes had been summoned for a special event, a race designed not for the glory of medals but as a means of raising morale. Soldiers, townsfolk, and athletes alike would gather to witness a display of endurance and spirit, a reminder that life continued even as war raged on. Jack's heart quickened at the thought, he would be the first to step onto that field, the first to remind everyone that even in dark times, the human spirit could soar. The day of the race arrived, and the air buzzed with excitement, mixed with an undercurrent of anxiety. Jack stood at the starting line, surrounded by familiar faces, each one etched with a story of loss but filled with hope. He glanced at the crowd, their expressions a mix of concern and encouragement. Mothers clutched their children, wives held their husbands tightly, and veterans exchanged knowing glances that spoke of battles fought and sacrifices made. This race was more than just an event, it was a testament to resilience, a celebration of life amid despair. As the signal to start was given, Jack exploded from the line, his feet pounding against the earth like thunder. He felt alive, fully present in the moment, as the cheers of the crowd surged around him. Each step was a declaration of defiance against the war that sought to divide them. The rhythm of his breath matched the heartbeat of those watching, their hopes swirling in the air like leaves caught in a gust of wind. The race unfolded with a fervor that ignited the spirit of the spectators. Jack took the lead, his body moving fluidly, a dancer gliding across a stage, momentarily unhindered by the weight of the world. The familiar cadence of his footfalls brought back memories of victories past, of how he had trained tirelessly in these very fields, perfecting his craft in the name of competition. Yet this time, the stakes felt higher. He was not merely racing against opponents, he was racing against the very essence of time itself. But as the race progressed, fatigue began to creep in. The distance weighed heavily on his legs, and he fought against the urge to slow down, to give in to the exhaustion that threatened to swallow him whole. The faces in the crowd blended into a blur, yet their voices surged through him like a wave, lifting him when he felt he might falter. It was a reminder of why he was running, not just for his legacy, but for the shared humanity that connected them all. With each mile he covered, Jack became increasingly aware of the reality outside of the race. News of battles lost and won, of friends who would never return home, loomed in the background like a tragic symphony. But in that moment, as he pushed past the halfway point, he felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He was not just a runner, he was a beacon of hope, a symbol of endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. As he rounded the final corner, the finish line came into view, a white ribbon fluttering in the breeze. Jack's heart raced faster than his feet could carry him. He could see the faces of those who had come to support him, eyes glistening with pride and determination. But suddenly, his legs felt as though they were made of lead. A sharp pain shot through his side, a cruel reminder of the limits of the human body. He pressed on, gritting his teeth against the pain, willing himself to move forward even as the world began to tilt around him. In his peripheral vision, he saw another runner closing the gap, a young man with a fiery determination reflecting Jack's own. In that moment of clarity, Jack realized that this race was not just about victory or defeat, it was about unity, about standing together even when the odds seemed insurmountable. With every ounce of strength he could muster, he surged forward, pushing through the pain, drawing upon the collective spirit of the crowd that urged him on. As he crossed the finish line, Jack threw his arms into the air, not just in triumph but in celebration of life itself. The roar of the crowd enveloped him like a warm embrace, a reminder that despite the darkness of war, hope still flickered in the hearts of those who believed in a better tomorrow. He had not just run a race, he had ignited a flame of resilience that would burn brightly in the face of adversity. But as the cheers faded and the adrenaline ebbed, Jack felt a new weight settle upon him. He had raced against time, and though he emerged victorious that day, he knew that the battle against war was far from over. Each step forward was a commitment, a reminder to himself and to the world that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could endure, could rise, and could shine. As he walked off the track, breathless and exhilarated, Jack felt a sense of purpose solidify within him. He wasn't alone in this fight, and neither were any of the souls who had gathered that day. Together, they would continue to race against time and fate, determined to carve a path toward peace. For those who wish to follow Jack's journey and the stories of those who ran beside him, remember to subscribe to the channel. Each story is a reminder of the courage that shines through even the darkest times. Join us as we honor the legacy of those who fought, who ran, and who never gave up hope. Jack Lovelock pushed forward, his breath matching the rhythm of his pounding heart. The path twisted through the countryside, a route laden with memories of simpler times when he raced for personal glory, not survival. The gentle sway of the trees, their branches swaying like solemn sentinels, reminded him of how everything had changed. Each footfall carried the weight of lives altered, friends he had known, fellow athletes, now scattered like leaves in the wind, some of whom had answered the call to arms. As he approached a clearing, he spotted the remnants of an old barn, its roof half collapsed, a ghost of its former self. It had once been a gathering place for locals, a spot for celebrations and laughter. Now it stood as a stark symbol of the war's relentless grip. Jack slowed his pace, heart heavy, and closed his eyes for a moment. He could almost hear the echoes of joy that once filled the air, but those sounds were drowned out by the distant thud of artillery in the far-off horizon. The local community had rallied together, each person playing their part in the war effort. Jack had witnessed the spirit of resilience, with neighbors volunteering in factories, women taking up roles traditionally held by men, and children collecting scrap metal. Yet amidst this camaraderie, he felt a growing sense of isolation. How could he, a man celebrated for his speed, contribute to a cause that demanded sacrifice in ways he had never imagined? The conflicting pull of his love for running and his duty to his country left him restless. As he continued his run, Jack's thoughts turned to the letter he had received just days earlier. It had arrived with the weight of profound responsibility. He had been selected to participate in a unique mission that would take him far from the tracks he knew and loved. The government needed his skills, not merely as an athlete but as a symbol of hope. They wanted him to run a message to a unit stationed at the front lines, a message that could change the course of many lives. It was a task laden with danger, yet it was also an opportunity to contribute in a way that felt true to his heart. With each passing mile, Jack's resolve strengthened. He remembered the countless hours spent on the tracks, the early mornings when his legs ached but his spirit soared, and the thrill of crossing the finish line, arms raised in victory. He could not let fear dictate his path. He had to embody the essence of his sport: courage, determination, and an unyielding spirit. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden hue over the fields, and Jack quickened his pace. He envisioned the runners of old, the greats who had graced the tracks before him. They ran for glory, for pride, and for a future that glimmered just beyond the horizon. But now, he would run for something much more significant, a chance to make a difference. Days turned into sleepless nights as Jack prepared for the journey. He practiced, not only his running but also memorizing the vital information he needed to carry. The message was critical, a relay of strategic importance that could save lives. It was a weight that sat heavily on his shoulders, yet he embraced it. The thought of his fellow countrymen relying on him ignited a fire within, and he knew he could not falter. Finally, the day arrived. Standing at the edge of the forest, the air carried a tangible tension, a reminder of what lay ahead. Jack adjusted his cap, tightening the straps of his backpack filled with provisions that would sustain him along the way. He took a deep breath, letting the chill of the morning invigorate him. The distant sound of military planes echoed overhead, a reminder of the reality he was stepping into. As he began to run, the world around him transformed. The path twisted and turned, an unending challenge. Each stride was a testament to his resilience, a declaration of his commitment to the task at hand. The fields blurred past him, a tapestry of greens and browns, but Jack's focus was sharp, his mind clear. He thought of the families affected by the war, the children who played in the shadows of destruction, and the parents who longed for their safe return. It was for them that he raced. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher in the sky. Jack moved with purpose, pushing against fatigue and doubt. The landscape changed as he entered a wooded area, the trees towering above him like ancient guardians. Shadows danced around him, and every rustle of leaves heightened his awareness. He could feel the weight of the message nestled close to his chest, a comforting reminder of why he ran. But as he navigated deeper into the woods, a sudden noise shattered the stillness, a distant explosion that rattled the ground beneath him. Jack skidded to a halt, heart racing. The realities of war were never far away. He crouched behind a large tree, listening intently. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, to retreat to safety. But then he remembered the faces of those he was racing for, the lives that depended on the message he bore. With a determination that surged through him, he emerged from his hiding place and continued onward, every step a rebellion against fear. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but Jack embodied the spirit of a runner, moving forward, never backward. He was racing against time, a clock ticking louder with each passing moment, and he refused to be the one who let it run out. The world around him teetered on the edge of chaos, and Jack Lovelock, the runner, was racing not just for himself, but for the hope of a brighter tomorrow. As he forged ahead, he could feel the weight of history on his shoulders, a legacy of courage that spurred him on. This was not just a race, it was a testament to the human spirit, an unwavering belief that in the darkest of times, heroes could emerge, even from the track. As he ran, Jack knew that regardless of the outcome, he was on a path that defined him far beyond the finish line. And in the heart of war-torn England, every step he took was a reminder that hope and bravery could light the way, even when shadows loomed large. If you wish to join Jack on his journey and discover the stories of courage that emerged from the shadows of history, subscribe to our channel and be part of the tale that unfolds. Together, we will remember those who raced against time and fate, ensuring their stories are never forgotten. Jack stood at the starting line, the cool morning air filled with a tension that felt almost electric. The crowd gathered around the makeshift track was a tapestry of emotions, each face reflecting the burdens they carried while simultaneously shining with the determination to rise above them. The soldiers were in their uniforms, stoic yet hopeful, their eyes betraying the memories of battles fought and friends lost. The townsfolk, many with their children by their side, represented the lifeblood of the community, eager for a reason to cheer, to find a moment of joy amid the chaos that had engulfed their lives. As the starting gun fired, Jack surged forward, his legs propelling him with a strength fueled by purpose. The rhythm of his feet striking the ground echoed the heartbeat of the crowd, and for a moment, everything else faded away. He was no longer just a runner, he was a symbol of resilience, a beacon of light against the oppressive darkness of war. With each stride, he visualized the faces of his friends who had already answered the call and were now fighting on distant shores. He could see their smiles, hear their laughter, and feel their unwavering spirit as if they were running alongside him. The first lap passed quickly, and Jack felt an exhilarating rush. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices lifting him higher. This was not merely a race, it was a celebration of endurance, a testament to the human spirit's ability to rise above adversity. Each cheer propelled him forward, filling him with a sense of purpose that transcended the physical act of running. He was racing not just against his own limits, but against the dark clouds of despair that threatened to overshadow their lives. As he rounded the second lap, Jack felt the strain begin to settle in. His muscles ached, a reminder that he was still human despite the exhilaration coursing through him. But he drew strength from the very people he was racing for, the soldiers who faced enemy fire, the families anxiously waiting for news, and the children who deserved a future filled with hope. Their faces flashed in his mind, and he pushed through the fatigue, his feet pounding the earth like a heartbeat of defiance. Halfway through the race, Jack caught a glimpse of a soldier standing at the sidelines, his uniform crisp yet dusty, a testament to the battles he had faced. The soldier's eyes locked onto Jack's, filled with admiration and gratitude. In that fleeting moment, Jack felt an unbreakable bond, the understanding that they were all part of something greater, connected by the shared experience of sacrifice and courage. He pushed harder, motivated by the thought that his efforts could inspire others to keep fighting, to keep hoping. As the final lap approached, an unexpected wave of exhaustion washed over him. The cheering turned into a distant roar, and the world seemed to blur around him. Jack fought against the creeping fatigue, willing himself to focus on the finish line ahead. He could almost hear the echoes of his coach's stern voice from years past, reminding him that victory comes to those who refuse to yield, who refuse to give in to despair. With a surge of adrenaline, Jack sprinted forward, his heart pounding like a war drum. The finish line loomed, a simple strip of cloth marking the end of the race, but to him, it represented so much more. It symbolized hope, courage, and the strength of a community determined to stand together against the tide of darkness. The cheers swelled once more, washing over him like a wave of pure energy, urging him onward. But as he crossed the finish line, something unexpected happened. Jack stumbled, his legs giving way beneath him. The ground rushed up to meet him, and he fell hard, the air knocked out of his lungs. The cheers transformed into gasps of shock, and the world around him spun as he tried to catch his breath. He felt the warmth of the sun on his face, contrasting sharply with the cold dread that gripped his heart. Panic surged through him as he struggled to rise. Had he pushed too far? Had he failed in front of everyone he had hoped to inspire? Hands reached down to help him, lifting him back to his feet. The faces of friends and strangers surrounded him, worry etched in their expressions. But even in that moment of vulnerability, Jack could see the compassion in their eyes, the determination to support him. "Jack, are you all right?" someone called out, their voice laced with concern. He waved a hand, shaking off the anxiety that threatened to engulf him. "I'm fine. Just needed a moment." He managed a weak smile, even as his heart raced for more than just the exertion. The soldier from earlier stepped forward, his expression a mix of admiration and respect. "You gave it your all out there, Jack. You've inspired us all." Jack felt warmth swell in his chest at the soldier's words. He had run for more than himself, and even though he had faltered at the finish line, the act itself had been a triumph. He realized that it wasn't just about winning or losing, it was about the spirit shared in that moment, a collective strength forged through struggle. As he steadied himself, breathing deeply, Jack looked out at the crowd, their faces filled with encouragement and solidarity. He felt a sense of connection, a reminder that they were united in their fight against despair, that they would rise together, no matter the odds. In that moment, Jack vowed to continue running, not just for himself, but for the countless souls grappling with the weight of war. They needed to see that even when one stumbles, the spirit of resilience never falters. With renewed determination, he raised his arms, prompting the crowd to cheer once more. The energy surged through him, igniting a fire that burned brighter than before. As he stepped back from the finish line, he knew that this race was just the beginning. He would continue to push forward, no matter the obstacles. And as the day's events unfolded, Jack's story became a beacon of hope, a reminder to all that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could endure, triumph, and inspire. The race was not just about the finish line, it was about the journey, the heart, and the unwavering commitment to keep moving forward. Join us on this journey as we uncover more stories of resilience and bravery during World War II. Subscribe to our channel, and let's explore the lives of those who fought against time, against fate, and against the darkness. Together, we can honor their legacies and carry their stories into the future. Jack Lovelock pressed on, the unforgiving terrain beneath his feet a reminder of the harsh realities that had replaced the thrill of competition. Each mile brought him closer to the front lines, and with it, the weight of his mission grew heavier. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced eerily among the trees. Jack was no longer just running, he was racing against time itself, knowing that every second counted. The letter that had summoned him to this task remained etched in his mind. The government had called upon him to act as a courier, a role he had never imagined taking on. A runner, yes, but a messenger of hope during wartime? The juxtaposition tugged at his heart. He had spent years training to be the fastest on the track, yet now he found himself dodging danger rather than racing towards victory. The words on the paper had ignited a fire within him, igniting a sense of purpose that transcended his own ambitions. This mission was about more than medals or records, it was about lives, and the flickering flame of hope in a time of despair. As he ran, the landscape shifted around him, becoming less familiar. The road narrowed, hemmed in by dense woods that whispered secrets to one another. Jack could hear the rustling of leaves, but it was not just the wind he sensed. In the distance, he caught the faint sound of gunfire, a chilling reminder of the conflict that had permeated every aspect of life. With every step, he felt an invisible thread connecting him to those fighting at the front. It was a bond forged by shared humanity, a reminder that bravery came in many forms. He reached a fork in the path, and instinctively, he veered left, following the advice from his commanding officer. "Stick to the woods," the man had urged, "it'll be safer than the main roads." Jack remembered the look in the officer's eyes, a blend of fear and determination that mirrored his own. He pressed on, the taste of anxiety mingling with the dust of the earth. As he navigated through the thicket, he stumbled upon a clearing where a group of soldiers rested. Their uniforms were frayed, and their faces bore the weariness of endless days on the battlefield. For a moment, Jack hesitated, unsure whether to approach them. But the urgency of his mission propelled him forward. He cleared his throat and called out, "Excuse me. I'm looking for the 12th Infantry Division. I have a message for Colonel Hastings." The soldiers looked up, surprise etched on their faces. One of them, a tall man with a weathered face and a kind glimmer in his eyes, gestured for Jack to come closer. "You're a long way from home, aren't you, lad?" Jack nodded, breathless. "I'm here to deliver an important message. It's urgent." The soldier's demeanor shifted, seriousness taking hold. "Come, sit with us for a moment. You look like you could use a break." Jack hesitated, he wanted to keep moving, but the weariness in his bones overruled his instinct. He lowered himself onto the ground, grateful for a momentary respite. "What's a runner like you doing out here?" the soldier asked, handing Jack a canteen of water. "Shouldn't you be racing in the Olympics or something?" Jack chuckled, the sound tinged with bitterness. "Not anymore. I've traded my running shoes for a mission. The war has changed everything." The soldier nodded knowingly. "We've all had to adapt. It's not just the fighting, it's the waiting, the uncertainty. It takes a different kind of courage to carry on amid all this." Jack took a sip of water, the cool liquid revitalizing him momentarily. "I feel like I should be doing more." I'm fast, but how does that help anyone when the world is on fire? The soldier leaned back, pondering Jack's words. Courage isn't always about heroics on the battlefield. Sometimes, it's about showing up when it matters most. You're running for a reason, and that reason is bigger than yourself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the landscape, Jack felt a sense of camaraderie with these men, a connection that transcended the chaos surrounding them. But time was slipping away, and he could not delay any longer. I appreciate your kindness, but I really must get going, he said, rising to his feet. The soldiers nodded, understanding in their eyes. Take care out there, runner. You're doing something important. As Jack set off once more, the weight of their words lingered in his mind. He was no longer just a man racing against time, he was part of a larger battle, a struggle for survival, and every second he spent on the path was a testament to that fight. The woods began to thin, and in the distance, Jack saw the faint glow of campfires. The sight filled him with renewed determination. He quickened his pace, knowing he was close. But as he drew nearer, the faint sound of laughter was abruptly cut short, replaced by the urgent shout of a soldier. Incoming! Instinct kicked in, and Jack ducked behind a tree just as explosions erupted nearby, sending debris flying. His heart raced, not from the thrill of competition, but from sheer survival. He held his breath, waiting for the chaos to settle. The air filled with smoke and the acrid scent of gunpowder as he crouched low, heart pounding against his ribcage. After a tense moment, the air cleared slightly, revealing a scene of confusion. Soldiers scrambled for cover, their orders drowned out by the din. Jack's pulse quickened. He had to reach Colonel Hastings. With a surge of adrenaline, he bolted from his hiding spot, weaving through the chaos, determined to fulfill his duty. There was no time to waste now. Every step felt like a race, and he was determined to reach the finish line, no matter what awaited him at the end. As he approached the camp, his thoughts drifted back to the barn he had passed earlier, a place once filled with laughter and joy now bearing the scars of war. He could not allow the darkness of despair to extinguish the hope he carried. Jack Lovelock was not just a runner, he was a beacon of resilience, and he would deliver his message, come what may. He would race against time and fate, with the world watching, and he would not falter in his stride. In this moment, he thought of all who had fought and fallen, of the unity that war demanded, and of the strength found in every heartbeat that echoed the rhythm of life. He pressed on, determined to reach the colonel and deliver hope, even if it meant risking everything. If you find yourself captivated by Jack's journey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, resonate, and remind us of the bravery that flourished amidst the darkest times. Jack pressed on, the energy of the crowd pulsating through him like a steady drumbeat. Each footfall reverberated with a determination that felt almost otherworldly, as if his spirit were rising above the confines of his weary body. He thought of his fellow soldiers, men who had shared laughter and dreams with him, only to be scattered across battlefields, facing danger and uncertainty. They were the reason he pushed harder, the motive behind every strained breath and aching muscle. As he entered the third lap, the cheers grew louder, the voices of the townsfolk mingling with the shouts of soldiers in uniform. It was a kaleidoscope of encouragement, their hopes woven into every syllable. But as Jack's pace quickened, so too did the weight of expectation. The burden felt heavier, each cheer echoing in his mind, urging him to go faster, to do more. He grimaced but kept his focus, reminding himself that every ounce of effort was a tribute to those who fought in the trenches far away. Around the bend, Jack caught a glimpse of a familiar face among the crowd. It was Helen, his childhood friend, now a woman transformed by the weight of war. Her eyes sparkled with pride and concern, and in that moment, he felt a surge of strength. He ran for her, for the memories they shared, for the laughter that once filled their quiet town. He willed himself to push through the fatigue, the burn of his muscles becoming a distant echo. Helen's supportive gaze was a lifeline, pulling him closer to the finish line. As he completed the third lap, Jack's heart raced in tandem with his feet. He was acutely aware of the physical toll the race was taking on his body, but the thought of giving up was simply not an option. Around him, soldiers cheered, their voices merging into a symphony of hope. Jack stole a glance at the horizon, where the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the makeshift track. Time felt suspended, the moments stretching infinitely as he raced against not just the clock, but the encroaching darkness of despair. With each passing lap, a quiet sense of urgency began to build within him. He thought of the families waiting for news, the uncertainty that hung like a shadow over their lives. The victory he sought was not just for him, it was for every mother, every wife, every child praying for the safe return of their loved ones. Jack could almost hear the whispers of those families, urging him to run faster, to push harder, to embody the spirit of resilience they so desperately needed. By the time he reached the final lap, fatigue had settled deep within his bones. His legs felt like lead, and the once vibrant cheers seemed to fade into a distant hum. But amidst the exhaustion, a fire ignited within him. He would not falter, he would not fall short. As he rounded the track, Jack could feel the weight of every sacrifice made, every life lost. He would become their voice, he would run for their dreams and their memories. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through his side, a cramp that threatened to cripple him. Panic surged briefly, but Jack fought through it, drawing on the strength of his purpose. He thought of his comrades, the brave souls who had enlisted for something greater than themselves. They had faced bullets and bombs, he could face this pain. Gritting his teeth, Jack pressed on, the finish line now a blazing beacon ahead. He could see it now, the white banner fluttering in the wind, the final destination that symbolized not merely the end of a race but the culmination of hope. As he approached, the crowd erupted into wild cheers, their voices melding into a powerful roar that pushed him forward. Each cheer felt like a personal embrace, wrapping around him, shielding him from the pain. He was no longer just Jack Lovelock, the runner, he was a champion, a warrior in his own right. But as Jack surged toward the finish line, the world around him began to blur. The cheers faded into a distant echo, his vision clouded by fatigue. Just a few feet away, he felt a sudden wave of dizziness wash over him. The finish line beckoned, yet it felt as though an unseen force was pulling him back. He stumbled, the ground rising to meet him as darkness threatened to envelop him. Time felt suspended as he fell to the ground, his body betraying him when he needed it most. The cheers turned into gasps of shock and concern, faces morphing into expressions of disbelief. Jack's heart raced, not from the thrill of the race, but from a realization that washed over him like cold water. He had come so far, fought through so much, and yet, he was now at the precipice of surrender. Instinctively, the crowd surged forward, their collective energy reaching out to him. Jack could hear voices calling his name, could feel hands lifting him. The spirit of his friends, the weight of their sacrifices, surged through him like a lifeline. With a last burst of will, he forced himself to rise, each heartbeat a reminder that he was not alone. He would finish what he started, not just for himself, but for every soul who had believed in him. With the finish line just a step away, Jack summoned every ounce of strength he had left. In a moment of sheer determination, he pushed through, crossing the finish line with an eruption of cheers behind him. The world erupted in applause, but Jack's vision began to fade. In that fleeting moment, he became acutely aware of the countless sacrifices made and the lives forever changed by the war. As he fell into the arms of those who rushed to his side, Jack felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him. Though he had met his fate before the finish line, he had become a symbol, a testimony to the enduring human spirit. He had raced against time, and in doing so, inspired others to keep fighting, to keep believing, and to never lose hope. In that moment of triumph and collapse, he realized that true victory was not merely crossing a line but embodying the spirit of resilience in the face of adversity. If you find stories like Jack's inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep the memories of those who fought alive, sharing tales that remind us of the strength of the human spirit, even in the darkest of times. As he pushed deeper into the woods, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. The trees loomed tall around him, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky. Jack could feel the damp earth beneath his feet, an ever-present reminder of the rain that had soaked the ground for days. Each step was a precarious balance between urgency and caution. The weight of the parcel strapped across his back felt heavier with every mile, a constant reminder of his mission. Inside were crucial documents that could change the outcome of battles, a role he had never envisioned for himself. But the air was electric with the uncertainty of war. Jack's heart raced, not just from the physical exertion but from a primal fear that gnawed at him. The sounds of nature gave way to a low rumble in the distance, a sound he recognized all too well, the growl of approaching tanks. The ground trembled slightly beneath his feet, and he quickened his pace, his instincts urging him to find shelter. He knew he had to remain hidden if he was to deliver his message. The roads were dangerous, but the woods could provide cover if only he could navigate them skillfully. As he ran, flashes of memories flickered through his mind, days spent on the track, the rush of wind against his face, the cheers of the crowd. It felt like a lifetime ago. Each moment of joy was eclipsed by the stark reality of his current situation. The faces of his friends who had enlisted flashed before him, brave men who had once shared dreams of glory on the athletic fields. Now they were on the front lines, fighting for a cause that felt both noble and heart-wrenching. He had chosen to serve in a different way, but the burden of that choice weighed heavily on him. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the trees, a sound that made Jack's blood run cold. He froze, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. His heart raced as he scanned the shadows, searching for the source of the noise. Was it a branch snapping, or something more sinister? He took a tentative step forward, peering into the underbrush, the adrenaline pumping through his veins. The world around him felt alive with danger, and every second stretched into an eternity. Then, without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows, a soldier clad in olive drab, his face smeared with dirt and fatigue. Jack's breath caught in his throat, fear and relief battling for dominance. The soldier held a finger to his lips, signaling silence. Jack nodded, understanding the unspoken urgency. They were both on the same side, but in this treacherous landscape, trust was a fragile thing. "Where are you heading?" the soldier whispered, his voice low and tense. "I'm a courier," Jack replied, his own voice barely above a whisper. "I need to get these documents through." The soldier's eyes narrowed, and a flicker of recognition crossed his face. "I've seen you run. You're Lovelock, the champion. What are you doing out here?" "Running for my country, just like you, Jack," said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his mind. "I have to get these to the command post." The soldier hesitated, glancing down the path. "Listen, it's not safe here. There's a patrol coming through. You need to follow me, we have a safe house not far from here." Jack's instincts kicked in. He understood the stakes. "Lead the way," he urged, his determination renewed. The soldier turned on his heel, moving swiftly and silently through the undergrowth. Jack kept pace beside him, his heart pounding not just from the exertion but from the weight of what lay ahead. The woods were alive with the sounds of war, a cacophony of distant explosions and the muffled shouts of men. Each sound was a reminder of the urgency of his mission. They reached a clearing where a small, makeshift shelter stood. Jack glanced around, taking note of every detail, the way the branches were woven together, the camouflage that would make it nearly invisible from the air. The soldier gestured for him to enter first, and Jack stepped inside, his senses heightened. Once inside, the soldier closed the flap behind them, sealing them off from the outside world. "We'll wait here until it's safe," he said, his voice tight with tension. Jack nodded, his mind racing. "I can't delay too long. Those documents need to be delivered." The soldier leaned against the wall, visibly weary. "I understand. But you can't run blind. If you go out there without a plan, you might as well hand those documents over to the enemy yourself." Jack took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus. He was used to racing against time on the track, but this was a different game. As he looked around the dim space, he noticed the map pinned to the wall, a series of lines and markings that resembled a twisted spider web. Without thinking, he moved closer, his curiosity piqued. "What's this?" "Routes and patrol patterns," the soldier replied, joining him. "We can use this to find the safest path to the command post." Jack studied the map, his finger tracing the lines. The soldier's presence beside him added a layer of reassurance. Together, they began plotting a route that would take them through less exposed areas, maneuvering around the patrols that threatened to intercept them. As they worked, a sense of camaraderie blossomed. Jack could see the soldiers' determination mirroring his own, a shared understanding born of sacrifice and duty. They were both racing against an enemy far greater than themselves, but in that moment, they were united by purpose and resolve. The soldier glanced at Jack, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You know, once this war is over, I'd like to see you race again. Remind the world that there's still beauty in speed." Jack smiled, the idea lifting his spirits. "And maybe one day, we'll tell the stories of what we did here. The courage, the sacrifices." But the moment was fleeting, the weight of their reality crashing back upon them. The sounds of distant explosions grew closer, a stark reminder that they were still very much in the midst of a battle. Jack's heart sank as he realized that his time was limited. They had to move soon. "Let's go," Jack said, his voice steady and filled with a newfound urgency. "We have a message to deliver." With a nod, the soldier opened the flap, and together they stepped back into the uncertain world outside, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Jack felt the weight of the documents on his back, a symbol of hope and resilience. As they moved forward, he understood that this race was about more than just speed, it was about courage, community, and the fight for a brighter tomorrow. If you want to hear more stories like this, tales of bravery and perseverance during trying times, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Join us as we uncover the hidden stories of those who stood against the tide, reminding us all that hope can be found even in the darkest of times. Jack Lovelock surged forward, his legs propelling him across the makeshift track with an urgency that seemed to transcend the physical effort. The cheers from the crowd were a relentless tide, washing over him in waves of encouragement. With each step, he could feel their hopes and dreams intertwining with his own, a collective yearning for victory that resonated deep within his soul. But as he entered the final lap, the weight of the world pressed heavily upon him, a burden that grew with each stride. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced along the ground. Jack could see the finish line ahead, a ribbon fluttering in the autumn breeze, almost taunting him with its proximity. Yet, it felt as though he were running through molasses, his legs heavy and fatigued. He fought against the exhaustion that threatened to pull him under, the sweat stinging his eyes as he focused on that distant goal. It was not just a race, it was a tribute to those who had fought and fallen, to the comrades who had become more than brothers in arms. In the crowd, Helen's face remained fixed in his mind. Her unwavering support was an anchor, reminding him of the strength they had shared in their youth, the laughter that had once filled their days. She was a beacon of light amidst the darkness of war, and with every stride, he felt her presence urging him on. Jack pushed harder, his breaths coming in ragged gasps as he approached the halfway mark of his last lap. The soldier beside him, a burly man with a grimy uniform and a fierce determination in his eyes, glanced over, sensing the strain etched on Jack's face. "You got this, Lovelock." "For the boys," he shouted, his voice rising above the crowd's roar. The words sparked a fire within Jack, igniting a determination that he had thought might be waning. "For the boys," Jack echoed silently, his heart swelling with purpose. He envisioned each friend he had lost, each face etched in his memory, urging him to carry on. With renewed vigor, he pushed himself forward, his feet pounding against the ground, matching the rhythm of his racing heart. The cheers grew louder, a cacophony of voices that merged into a singular force pushing him ahead. But the finish line was still a distant glimmer, and as he rounded the final bend, doubt crept in. Would he make it? Could he cross that line before the weight of fatigue pulled him down? It was then that he heard it, the unmistakable sound of a trumpet. A fanfare so familiar and uplifting that it sent chills down his spine. It was the song they had played before every battle, a rallying cry that stirred the deepest recesses of his spirit. Jack found himself drawing strength from the music, his pace quickening as if the notes were lifting him into the air. He was not just racing against time, he was racing against despair, battling the shadows that threatened to engulf him. The trumpet echoed in his heart, reminding him of every moment he had fought for, every friend who had believed in him, and every dream that the war had tried to steal away. As he neared the finish line, he could see the faces of the crowd, their expressions a blend of hope and anticipation. Among them, Helen stood, her hands clasped tightly, her lips moving in silent encouragement. It was a sight that spurred him into a final sprint, his legs responding with a burst of energy he did not know was possible. Jack pushed past the weariness, his body moving as if on its own accord. The finish line was now only a few strides away, and he could almost feel the fabric of the ribbon brush against his skin. But just as he reached for that moment of triumph, the world seemed to shift. A sharp pain erupted in his chest, a sudden jolt that froze him in place. Jack stumbled, the ground rushing up to meet him as darkness encroached on his vision. He had fought valiantly, but the toll of battle, both on the field and in this race, had taken its toll. A hushed silence fell over the crowd as Jack fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Time seemed to slow, the finish line a blurred vision in front of him. He could hear the panicked voices of those around him, but they felt distant, like echoes from another world. He was aware of Helen rushing forward, her face a mask of concern, her hands reaching for him. "Jack! No, don't you dare give up," she shouted, desperation lacing her voice. In that moment, he saw not just the crowd, but the faces of his comrades, those young men whose lives had been cut short by war. Their spirits surrounded him, each one a reminder of the fight he had to continue, not just for himself, but for all of them. With a Herculean effort, Jack pushed against the pain, the agony in his chest screaming for him to stop, to surrender to the darkness. But he would not. Not now. Not when he was so close. Drawing from the last reserves of strength within him, he surged forward, his feet moving even as his body protested. The finish line was just ahead, and for every soldier who had ever fought, every dream that had ever been snuffed out, he would cross that line. With one last push, he broke through the ribbon, collapsing onto the ground as the cheers erupted once more. The world spun around him, but in that moment of triumph, he felt the warmth of victory wash over him. It was not just his victory, it was the victory of every man and woman who had endured the ravages of war. As darkness began to close in, he felt someone grasp his hand. Helen's voice cut through the haze. "You did it, Jack. You made it." Her words wrapped around him like a warm embrace, anchoring him to consciousness. In that moment, with the weight of fatigue finally lifting, Jack closed his eyes, allowing the sounds of celebration to wash over him. He had raced against time, faced his fate, and somehow found the strength to cross that finish line. The fight was not over, but he had proven to himself that the spirit of resilience would always endure. If you found Jack's journey inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that capture the essence of courage and determination throughout history. There are countless tales waiting to be told, and together, we can keep their memories alive.